What's good with the people? I am Damo, the political plug. This is the Chop Up. And as y'all can see, I'm one deep by myself. Shout out to Toya G. She is currently somewhere up north. National debate tournament, coaching her debate squad in the national debate tournament. You can call it the March Madness of college policy debate. Toya got teams there. She's also there with the homie Conscious Lee. Lee got the opportunity to be the keynote speaker at the national debate tournament this year. So shout out to Lee for being able to do that. Even though they hated on us on our come up. They did not show niggas love. They did not show niggas love, but niggas was able to do what we did in college policy debate, make the impact we made, and be able to, do what we do outside of that now, especially Lee. So, the debate community is proud to have somebody like them a part of their shit just because, they need it. But I know it's late. Appreciate y'all that's able to tap in for the live. Of course, when y'all see, if you don't get the chance to see it live, when y'all see us up, go ahead, check it out. Because we have to have this conversation about the economy. We got to have this conversation about the economy. What was crazy was that during the election, I was arguing with niggas tough, specifically on the question of the economy. Shout out to Vyas in the building. Peace. I was specifically arguing. One of the main points that I made during the election last year was, regardless of what everybody think about the economy and about Joe Biden's economy, it's actually not bad. Inflation was an issue, but the United States compared to the rest of the world, the United States was doing pretty good. The economy was one of the major questions on every poll in terms of what mattered and everything else. And for whatever reason, there was this assumption that Donald Trump was going to be better with the economy than Joe Biden was. Now, again, the problem with having these conversations is that in defending Biden's policy, you get painted as somebody who, you ride for Biden and this, that. It's like, no. This is Biden's policy. He still favored corporations. He still did shit that was more friendly to the rich. Joe Biden was not an enemy of the rich, regardless of the way he tried to paint himself as he dipped. But when we're comparing the two, I think a lot of people identified and pointed out how Donald Trump, regardless of how good the economy was while he was president, was not responsible for any of that benefit. There was no policy that anybody can name that Donald Trump was responsible for that made the type of economy that he brags about. Right? In most cases, economists during the election were saying Donald Trump's policies are dangerous. They're detrimental. We do not understand. We do not see the benefit. We only see a negative impact on the economy. We actually saw that with Trump's tariffs, his first round of tariffs during his first administration. So while, we act like we didn't kind of see this play out, even though, for example, it wasn't as extensive as the tariffs that he has now. So during the election, regardless of the facts that was presented, and we're going to talk more about some of those facts as we get later into the show. Regardless of the facts that was presented, niggas had it in their mind that Donald Trump would be better for the economy than Joe Biden. And while I was disappointed when Kamala Harris lost, the one thing that I knew I was going to be able to hang my hat on is these niggas was wrong. These people were wrong. Trump supporters were wrong. Biden haters were wrong in the idea that Trump can't be worse, that Trump can't make shit any worse than it already is or than it already was. His policies was probably going to be better because he a businessman and all that type of bullshit. And I knew niggas was wrong. Economists knew niggas was wrong. Anybody that was paying attention to people that was really tapped into what was going on knew this shit, knew niggas was flat out wrong about Donald Trump being better for the economy. And we ain't even had to wait a full year. I don't even think we had to wait a full 100 days. I think we still in the first 100 days for niggas to be proven fucking wrong. That quick. We ain't even in the summertime of Trump's first of year one in Trump's second administration, and we already seeing his policies are ass. They're terrible. And then, you know, folks may be like, well, see, but what's the point though? Like, if you just, nigga, the point is that he let He lied to niggas from the get-go, and niggas defended the lies. Donald Trump was campaigning on lowering prices day one, and not even 100 days in, we seeing the exact opposite. You think niggas ain't gonna be like, look, you think niggas ain't gonna be like, I told you so, with the energy, with the effort that niggas put into defending Donald Trump? You don't think niggas is gonna like look at Trump policy, look at the impact of Trump policy, look at the response to Trump policy and be like, I told you, dumbass. We told you. The economists told you. The people who literally spend their lives understanding the impact of economic policy looked at niggas and said, his policy is ass. His policy is going to make shit worse. But this is what we got, though. And this is what niggas bought into. This is what niggas bought into. Let me know if y'all can't hear that.
Down prices and make America
day one
affordable again. We have to make it affordable. It's not affordable.
Starting on day one of my new administration, we will end inflation and we will make America affordable again. It's not affordable.
We're going to make America affordable again. Day one.
Starting on day one, we will drive down prices and make America affordable again. We have to make.
When are we going to start holding people accountable to their words instead of making excuses for their asses?
Administration, we will end inflation and we will make America affordable again. It's not affordable.
Does affordability no longer matter? Niggas ain't tripping off that shit no more. Cause niggas is like, oh, it's Trump derangement syndrome. Oh, we got niggas talking about we gotta wait and see. We can't talk about the policy right now. Okay, cool. But we gonna give this nigga a pass for just the blatant lies that y'all niggas believed, and you don't think niggas is gonna take the time to point that shit out? That's why I'm up late doing this shit. Cause I'm like, yo, you know, I'm a lot of my focus and my political science degree was like political philosophy, you know, American politics, that type of shit. I'm like, if I'm gonna have this conversation about tariffs, I got to get deeper in my economy bag. If I'm gonna have this conversation with tariffs, and as I'm doing research, as I'm reading, as I'm going to get into the information, this shit was obvious. The impact of Donald Trump's tariffs were obvious, and we're gonna talk about the history of that, but. As we got a conversation, as we got promises, as we got whole campaign speeches about about inflation going down day one, we actually get the exact opposite. And while I do think it's we repeatedly have conversations about shit that we don't know nothing about, I at least want to make this conversation. Yeah, I'm pointing the finger. I'm like, yeah, you niggas was wrong. And this is why. And again, there's a purpose to point out why niggas is wrong. Because as we move forward, you niggas' political opinions and who y'all think is beneficial and who y'all willing to get behind and cut for, you no longer have no credibility. That shit is gone. You done. You were more worried about whether or not Kamala Harris was black. That mattered more than what we seeing with the economy, what we seeing with the market, what we gonna see with layoffs, what we gonna see with wages. All of that shit, niggas was more worried about whether or not Kamala Harris was black than the shit that we dealing with right now. Niggas' whole retirements is getting wiped out. Whole retirements getting wiped out. But niggas was more worried about whether or not Kamala was black. But let's at least develop an understanding of tariffs. Let's develop an understanding of tariffs. Let's make this a learning opportunity. But as we develop an understanding about tariffs, you're gonna see as they explain it why Trump's policy was nonsensical and do not benefit regular fucking people in no way, shape, or form. Actually makes their lives a lot worse. But let's get into it.
President Trump's tariffs are one of the most harmful and unnecessary mistakes of the modern era.
They rip us off. It's so sad to see.
Almost everything Donald Trump has said about the history, economics, and technicalities of trade is delusional. Here's why.
Now hold on, but these are the people that we're not supposed to listen to, right? Like, this is an economist explaining why what Trump is doing ridiculous, but we out here arguing about whether or not Kamala Harris is black.
The president says his reciprocal tariffs are justified by other countries' barriers to America's goods. Currently, America imports more goods than it exports overall, and especially from countries such as China and Vietnam. To counteract this, he is setting tariffs to try to balance trade with every country. The formula boils down to this. Divide the trade deficit in goods with a country by their total goods exports to America, and then halve it to get the tariff. Take the European Union as an example. America's goods deficit with the EU was $236 billion in 2024. You divide that by the EU's goods exports to the US, which was $606 billion. The result...
Hold on, now to be clear, it's not hard to figure this shit out. As you can see, it's layers and levels to it, yes. But from a basic level, it really just requires basic math to understand what it is that Trump and them is doing. I don't know why niggas act like only PhDs or other motherfuckers. Nah, it's basic math that you could break down in order to see what Trump and them is doing. None of the math that he just showed to calculate Trump's tariffs and like display any higher level understanding of math to be able to get.
Is 39%, which his team has roughly halved to get the tariff of 20%. But this approach is flawed because trade deficits don't tell you much about barriers to trade. Take Brazil. It's notoriously protectionist and charges importers tariffs of more than double what the EU levies. Yet under Trump's scheme, it faces the minimum tariff of only 10%, half what's being charged to the European Union. Trade deficits just don't measure what Trump thinks they do. Saying that America needs balanced trade with every individual country is crackers. Let's take another example.
Right, because again, so when we're talking about trade deficits, we're talking about the amount of tariffs that get applied, right? How much you making off what you sending us, how much we making off what you send you, that difference. Or what we send you, that difference. Trade deficit.
Trump is levying an astonishing 37% reciprocal tariff on the small economy of Botswana, from which America buys about 4 times as much in goods as it sells. But what America buys from Botswana is mainly diamonds, because it has hardly any of its own.
Blood diamonds.
So does it really make sense to say that America must sell as much to Botswana as it buys?
No, it does not make sense. It does. The relationship, the product, all of those things create a dynamic that makes sense to each party. Trump is bringing an irrational understanding of economics to a conversation that's really, as we're going to see historically, has already been hashed out.
It's like saying that when you go to the jeweler to buy an engagement ring, they must buy something from you too. The effect of these tariffs on America's economy will be to increase the price of almost everything it imports, from food to phones, leading to higher inflation this year. In the long run, less trade means the economy will become less specialised, and it will have to duplicate things that are currently done overseas. This will hit productivity, and there will be less competitive pressure from imports to, say, make better and cheaper cars.
Which goes against everything they've been saying about the benefit of
their real incomes and have less choice. Mr. Trump is convinced that he has seen global trade for the sham that...
The man said it does not make sense. If I'm going in there to buy diamonds, I shouldn't be worried about what they buying from me. It makes no sense. The logic behind why these tariffs, why they trying to do these tariffs in the first place, to some capacity, like to really a major capacity, only benefit corporations and businesses. Because the reason why we're going to have to deal with it is because foreign governments, foreign companies, they don't pay the tariffs. We do. That cost, this has been repeated over and over again. The cost of tariffs get passed down to the American consumer. So he's not getting back at them in no capacity. He's not fucking up nothing they got going on in no capacity. Because when the prices go up, the prices only go up for us. We have to pay more. They're going to make sure they get their bread. Why are we arguing about this? Why is there such a staunch back and forth about the benefit or the impact of tariffs when we know at the end of the day, we got to pay that shit? Especially when the conversation pre-election was we care about prices. This should be quick. This is extremely obvious. If the issue is inflation, if we had such criticism of the Biden administration because of its inflation, if inflation was a number one talking point for Donald Trump when it comes to tearing down the economy for Joe Biden, why the fuck are we allowing this nigga to get away with increasing prices on every fucking thing and have to debate about that? What type of backwards ass world do we live in? What type of backwards ass world do we live in? Why are we having to have this conversation? So now that we got an understanding of why the tariffs don't make sense, we're going to get into an expert analysis, another economist explaining.
I think this is the biggest policy mistake in 90.
Explaining why it's one of the biggest policy mistakes in 90-some years. Explaining one of the biggest policy mistakes in 90-some years.
I think this is the biggest policy mistake in 95 years. And what is interesting is on the Republican Senate's website. So if you go to senate.gov and look up tariffs, this is what they say. It was on June 13th, 1930, that the Senate passed the Smoot-Hawley tariff, describing it.
And we're gonna talk about
the
we're gonna talk about more
catastrophic.
We're gonna talk more about the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, and we're gonna talk about the Smoot-Hawley tariffs specifically from the perspective of black people. But we have to understand the weight and the gravity of what's happening. We have to understand the weight of the gravity of what's happening. This shit isn't just politics as usual, because what typically happens with these conversations is it turns into, well, this is what they always do. And this is what always happens. And ain't they been doing this? And it's like, while we can point to like patterns that we've seen historically, at the end of the day, the way that this shit is happening right now is uniquely impacting us. Why wouldn't we do more to understand what's detrimental about these policies? What that shit look like moving forward for us? What it look like for our pockets?
Acts in congressional history. Now, this is the Republican-controlled U.S. Senate. And it said, despite the fact that 1,000 economists wrote a letter to Hoover saying, veto it, he did not veto it. And then it goes on saying the results were, and to use their words, disastrous. So disastrous that the American public voted the Republicans out of the House, the Senate, and the presidency 2 years later. Now, to be fair, the Fed screwed up badly afterwards.
So we see historically the impact of these types of tariffs on the economy. It led to the Great Recession. I want to show y'all what he's talking about when he says that on the literally on the United States Senate website. On the United States Senate website. This is senate.gov. The Senate passes Smoot-Hawley tariff June 13, 1930. It's described on the Senate website, the Smoot-Hawley tariff among the most catastrophic acts in congressional history. Tariffs. Come on, let's grasp the concept. Tariffs are associated, especially retaliatory tariffs, unnecessary tariffs, are associated with one of the greatest catastrophes in congressional history. And Donald Trump just pulled that shit off unilaterally. He just pulled that shit off unilaterally. And his shit was actually higher and more detrimental than the Smoot-Hawley shit. And niggas is trying to tell niggas to wait and see. We know what happened. After Herbert Hoover became president in 1929, he called Congress into a special session to deal with the troubled farm economy that had fallen into depression during the otherwise prosperous 1920s. President Hoover proposed a limited revision of the tariff on agricultural imports, raised rates, and boost sagging farm prices. 1,000 economists signed a petition drafted by a Chicago economist and future U.S. Senator Paul Douglas that implored the president to veto the tariffs. Why are we talking about wait and see right? The future of what Donald Trump is doing, we're going to see the benefit of when historically we literally have an exact parallel. The Smoot-Hawley Act is an exact parallel to the type of tariffs that Donald Trump is putting out, and we seeing the impact of it. As economists predicted, the high tariff proved to be a disaster even before its enactment. U.S. trading partners, are we connecting the dots? As the economists predicted, the high tariff proved to be a disaster even before its enactment. U.S. trading partners began retaliating by raising their tariff rates, which froze international trade. The tariff fight solidified Hoover's ties with Republican regulars, but it shredded his standing among the party's progressive. Most of the progressive Republican senators who had campaigned for Hoover in 1928 wound up endorsing Franklin D. Roosevelt for the next election. Nor did the tariffs sit well with the voters. In 1932, they turned the majority in both houses over to the Democrats by large margins. We can definitely see we about to see this shit happen again. Shout out to Jay Kyle in the building. We saw the market react to Donald Trump talking about tariffs the way that he did, similar to the Smoot-Hawley tariffs. And now we're seeing the exact impact of those things. And so this argument about whether or not these types of tariffs will bring back American trade, bring back American jobs, bring back American manufacturing, we have more evidence that it's going to do the opposite than we have thinking that we're going to get steel back and get other manufacturing jobs back from corporations that would rather pay the tariffs than actually deal with U.S. regulation, shit like minimum wage and everything else. It's still cheaper for companies to stay overseas than it is for them to return to the United States and just go ahead and pay the tariffs, because they know that that cost is going to get passed down to regular fucking people. They are just going to be able to pass off, like, everything that Trump is doing now is going to come from the pockets of everyday Americans. And this is after niggas bitched and complained about inflation. We have to talk about the way the discourse that went down during the election, when now we can see the results of what niggas was arguing for. We can see the results of it this quick. This quick, especially when it's already a historical reference like we see here. And we already know that when we're talking about the increase in prices, we're talking about the largest impact on people who make minimum wage or barely make over minimum wage, on people who live paycheck to paycheck, on people with fixed incomes. These are the people that get completely ignored in these conversations. People with fixed incomes. If the price of the shit that you got to pay for is going up simply because the president has ass backward trade policies, having to adjust an income like older individuals, my grandmother, for example, people on Social Security, it's making it harder for them to live. And it fucked me up that these people aren't the center of political dialogue. The people who are impacted the most, the people who can't afford an increase, this type of quick increase, this type of drastic increase in such a short amount of time, especially when we're not talking about a world where wages are increasing. We're talking about where people getting laid off. We can try to isolate the conversation of Doge laying people off with Donald Trump fucking up the economy. But at the end of the day, them things is happening in conjunction. The cost of goods is going up while all of these people who just lost their job because Donald Trump has whatever beef with government providing employment services. These people now also have to deal with the cost of groceries and their bills and having to definitely don't try to buy a car and no shit like that right now. After they just lost their job. But these are the voices that get ignored. These are the people that get dismissed. These are the people who are not relevant when we're talking about the impact of policy. This is why I always say, if we solve for the worst of us, everybody is good. But when we're thinking about it in the context of, well, it ain't impacting me like that, it's only impacting you like that, not right now. Because it's definitely going to impact you when you go into the grocery store when you having to pay for shit, when you got to buy a new car, all of this shit that it's like I ain't got to worry about that. Yeah, you gonna have to worry about it then. It's happening. And the nigga ain't even been president for 100 days. Shout out to Bay in the building. So, let's take a look at the market. The worst week for U.S. stocks since COVID as Trump's 10% tariffs on UK kick in. Stock market in the U.S. have ended their worst week since 2020. Now, mind you, bro, we have been so normalized to how trash Donald Trump is that this shit is just like, it's kind of par for the course, right? But let's think about it, though. The worst week since a pandemic. We're not dealing with some national emergency like a pandemic. This is just his policy. We're not dealing with people being sick. We're not dealing with people not being able to leave their home. Right? We're not dealing with any extenuating circumstances. Literally just Trump being like, I'm going to do something in terms of economic policy, created one of the worst weeks since the pandemic. All three main indexes on Wall Street dropped by more than 5%. And for some reason, it's still people that's believing the lie that the U.S. will supercharge the American economy. And it's like, yo, this I hate to have to do this, but let's be real basic. Let's be basic, because I feel like sometimes that's the only shit niggas understand. If the nigga said that on day one his policies was going to lower prices, is there a reason why we should believe that it somehow will supercharge the economy sometime in the future? The nigga already lied. Why does it matter that Donald Trump says that it'll supercharge the economy? Why does it matter that Fox News is willing to make shit up? Willing to ignore what the obvious impact of Trump policy in terms of the market. And again, we're gonna see that he actually inherited a bear market.
The United States.
This is something niggas should be eating off of this shit. But let's hear how the market is doing right now.
The United States has now entered a bear market, and the stock market just appears to be in a full-fledged collapse. But hey, Trump made history today. He is the first president since the S&P 500 was created back in 1957 to inherit a bull market and then turn it into a loss of at least 5% at this point in his presidency.
That's historic, people. I don't think niggas is getting it. That's historic. He's the first president to inherit the type of market that he did. A good market. Bear market, as they say. I'm not even gonna act like I'm the type of nigga that's into the market like that. I like the fact that 90% or over 90% of stocks are owned by 10% of the population is wild. So it's like, y'all have fun fighting over that little piece that's being allotted to niggas. But I mean, yeah, but not to shit on niggas in the market, do y'all thing, but at the same time, we're going to ignore historic losses. The first president ever to inherit a bear market and then create a loss. For all of my financially literate niggas, for all of my market niggas that only get their bread from from trading and all that other shit. If you lose in a bear market, if you not eating in a bear market, that's a problem, right? That's a problem, right? to inherit something that niggas should be eating off of, to turn it into losses. Let's continue.
And Trump appears to be basking in this honor because he reposted a TikTok today that says he's intentionally crashing the stock market. Also, the price of oil is falling, which may seem great, but you have experts saying it's because investors believe the floor is about to fall out from under the economy. We're to believe that people are going to be going fewer places. We saw the exact same thing in 2008 and 2020. We also saw Trump rage at Jerome Powell today, demanding that the Federal Reserve lower interest rates. And the Fed is essentially in charge of managing interest rates and other monetary policy. But Powell appears to have said no, saying that Trump's tariffs will translate into higher inflation and slower economic growth, and that higher inflation could be a permanent feature of America going forward because because of them. With economists saying that another word for what Powell is describing here is stagflation. And that would be very notable because it's really hard to get out of stagflation because not only do a ton of people not have jobs, but the prices of things don't come down to compensate for that because of high inflation. So you can end up basically stuck in a permanent downturn. And I mean, countries lose entire decades to this because you can't.
My nigga J. Cal corrected the language. He inherited a bull market and turned it into a bear market. Right. The bull market is where niggas eat. The bear market is where is a downward trend. Appreciate that. Got the language. Like I said, I'm not one of them market niggas, right? But that's not a good thing. Right? You feel me? Correct me if I'm wrong, J. Cal, but if you take it from a market to where you're supposed to be eating to it flip to the opposite, that means you don't know what you're doing. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you got the type of market when you're supposed to be eating and you're not eating, who's fucking up?
Stimulus check your way out of it like you can other recessions. But then, in worse news, at least for my son, the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders are...
My nigga Mumu said his stocks went from a little over $2,000 to $500 in 2 days. Niggas is losing money. He in y'all pocket. And we over here going, and we was spending all that time talking about whether or not Kamala Harris was black, and that nigga in y'all pocket. I gotta give me a pop filter. I know y'all hearing them peas. But yes, what are we doing, bro? What more conversation need to be had? Why are we still going back and forth? Why are niggas making excuses? I thought we cared about prices.
Now indefinitely delayed in the US due to Trump's tariffs. And this, as you had Bloomberg saying today, the lasting fingerprint of Trump's tariffs could be bigger than the failure to rapidly contain the fallout after Lehman collapsed, which for everyone not alive then is what made the Great Recession so great. But hey, in the meantime, these videos are tariff-free, so follow to stay in the loop.
See, I don't know market shit like that, so I'm just going to the experts. I'm just going to the experts. Going to the economists. I mean, look, or like Bay said, he lost $1,200 yesterday. Can somebody explain what the benefit is supposed to be? I know what they're trying to do. I know this conversation about bringing businesses back or making U.S. businesses more competitive. No, if the market decreases, then the value of those businesses decreases. When their value decreases, they go about cost-cutting measures. When they go about cost-cutting measures, they fire people. People lose their jobs. People lose their homes, their cars. They get behind on their bills. They rent or their credit get messed up. This is the trap. This is the trap. They want y'all to invest in or defend or try to opt into some long-term vision of our economy 10 years from now. When we trying to get wages up today. Black wealth is going backwards. We trying to get shit right today. We don't have 10 years. Black people ain't got 10 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. Niggas is trying to, literally, we are doing what we can when we making, you know what I'm saying, 70 cents to the dollar to the white man. We doing everything we can when federal minimum wage is still $7.25. When most Americans don't have a savings. That means they live in paycheck to paycheck. Most Americans can't deal with a $3,000, $2,000 emergency. But most Americans. So who are these things for? Let's at least answer that. For niggas that got all of these defenses, when shit is getting more expensive for people who are already saying, hey, people need to be paid more. Corporate greed is at an all-time high. We seeing corporate profits skyrocket. But this is what we see when it comes to the buying a car. This is what we see when it comes to buying a car. They about to get $30 billion. They getting $30 billion out of us to buy cars because of the tariffs. And while that ain't shit to Elon Musk, right? That's a drop in the bucket to Elon Musk and all these other motherfuckers that's running behind Trump. What about the regular person whose car done broke down and they need to get to work? I'm keeping it on the regular person level because I don't know who the fuck niggas was talking about when we was having conversations during the election. I don't know who was being centered in those conversations. I'm going to keep it a stack. I don't know who it benefited to focus mainly on whether or not Kamala was black. I don't know who that benefited. Because in the long run, it didn't benefit a single mom who car done broke down and now she got to buy a new one while Donald Trump is president. The whatever family who, you know, your child just turned, they child just got to age where they working and they can help support the family. So you trying to get them a whip. They're about to get and then think about it. Who's getting the extra $30 billion? Corporations. This shit is going to add to CEO profits. They still gonna get their bonuses while they laying niggas off. We've seen this story before. They're still getting paid. They gonna get their money. But Kamala wasn't black though. I get it. So he destroying the economy, and it's gotten to the point where it's so bad. It's gotten to the point where it's so bad that it's not just the liberals. Because I just the other day, nigga like me, I was accused of you know, just being on that Democrat shit and Trump derangement syndrome and even though it's like, yo, this nigga's doing historical shit. This nigga's doing shit that's never been done. Breaking barriers and flat out corruption. But okay, it's just because niggas is liberals, right? But now we've gotten to the point where even Donald Trump supporters are feeling the burn. They not feeling it. Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports, the CEO of Barstool Sports. This is what he got to say about the economy under Donald Trump.
Trump has put his tariffs all over the place. Get some wacky formula and do tariffs. And everything's in the shitter because of it. I'm down $7 million.
$7 million. And he ain't even hurting. Dave Portnoy, Trump supporter, Trump voter, down $7 million. And he was one of the same people that was telling us that Trump was better for the economy than Joe Biden. How much did he lose under Joe Biden? I don't know if anybody could tell me, did he ever mention that? $7 million. He's not the only one. Dave Portnoy, I don't know if y'all know streamer Aiden Ross. Streamer Aiden Ross is the nigga who I think he almost got in trouble because he gifted Trump a watch. He bought a watch. This is what Aiden Ross has to say. And oddly enough, he's not gonna mention what's his name? He's not gonna mention Trump. He's gonna ask what's going on. Right? And this is what pissed me off about election seasons, because niggas act like they tapped in and they involved. Like, look, I'm fucking with the president. I got him on my shit. Like, I'm advocating to vote for him and all this other shit, not fucking knowing what the fuck you're doing. I think this is perfect proof that all of these people that was running their mouths, acting like they knew what the fuck they was talking about when it come to Donald Trump and the economy, had any fucking clue. Aiden Ross was one of the main ones.
Guys, you want to be honest with you? I don't know how many of you guys are invested in crypto or stocks. What the fuck is going on with our country? Guys, why am I poor? Like, what is going on?
And really, poor people should take that as a slap in the face. This nigga that made millions just by sitting in the camera running his mouth, similar to what I'm doing now. He made a market for similar to what I'm doing now. Granted, I wouldn't mind getting paid millions to do this shit. But when he's talking about, why am I poor? Because the nigga that you put on your stream doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and y'all acted like he did. That's why you're fucking poor. That's why you've lost millions. That's why your crypto was looking like trash. Explain to me why the crypto president, the president that holds the crypto conference, the nigga ain't been in office 100 days and your crypto is already looking ass. Yes, it's shit talking time. But we making it educational. But it's still shit talking time. Y'all gonna get this work because you lied. Y'all lied. And we can say it now. When we were debating the election, it was all speculation. It was all speculation. Even though you had economists saying, and we're gonna show some of what was said by economists early on. Even though economists were saying like, nah, it's not what it is. People like Aiden Ross were on the internet lying to millions of people.
In the world right now, why the fuck is this going on? Can somebody please explain what's going on? Why are we all losing? Why are we all negative right now? Like, does anybody know why?
Does anybody know why? You clueless little son of a bitch. You don't know who you had in front of you. You don't know who you was passing off to the rest of the world. You don't know who you was advocating for. And you can't even say his name. What's going on in our country? What's going on in our country? Who did you just campaign on behalf of? What's going on in our country? What the fuck? I'm confused. What the fuck were y'all doing during the election? What were y'all talking about? Who was y'all advocating for? Did y'all not know? Was there some type of disconnect between what niggas was saying Trump was going to do or the impact of what Trump was doing? Like we were people, experts, economists, again, people who spend their lives understanding economic policy was telling you, what the fuck were you doing? Let me make sure y'all let me know if my what's the name is messing up, because it's showing that my frames is dropped and all of that. So let me take a quick look. Well, I take a quick breath. Yeah, give me. Why is it saying this shit? Yeah, y'all let me know if the video is fucking up or whatever. I'll try to get that figured out. But in the meantime, it's not just the streamers, it's not just the internet people. It's also some of your favorite commentators. One specifically, Ben Shapiro. Yes, even Ben Shapiro. Now, I'm going to point out that it's somebody else that's not fucking with Donald Trump economic policy, kind of off the Trump train. But I'm not going to play his shit. I played his shit once before. And it was it's the Nazi. It's the neo-Nazi nigga. The nigga that was like, we need to bring back our grandparents' racism. Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is also off the Trump train. But fuck him. Yeah, even if we agree with him in this instance, like I don't give a damn. I feel the same way about Ben Shapiro, but I'm using Ben Shapiro to show that this isn't just a liberal position. This isn't just liberals trying to get at Donald Trump.
Yesterday, President Trump declared that it was in fact Liberation Day, his giant tariff policy that he just dropped on the market unilaterally, probably unconstitutionally. Trump's reciprocal tariffs.
They starting to show some balls. Did he just say that? And again, they can't say it clearly, right? They always have to play coy, like maybe unconstitutionally. Like no, nigga, it's unconstitutional. The Harley tariffs we was talking about, that shit, the cross Harley tariffs we was talking about, that was an act of Congress. It was one of the worst congressional acts to ever take place, or one of the worst impacts of a congressional act to ever happen. That was an act. So we know Congress did that to just unilaterally do some shit like that. This one man, when that shit happened, you had a whole Congress that got voted out. It's one man, and he did that much damage on his own within less than 100 days. So yes, it was very unconstitutional. But your man's controls the Supreme Court.
Impose hundreds of billions of dollars in new taxes on Americans, be the largest tax increase since the Revenue Act of 1968. One of the biggest tax increases on American consumers in the history of America. And it's going to cost American consumers. It will cost American producers who use input.
These are not liberal talking points. These are not liberal talking points. A Trump surrogate, somebody who campaigned for him, is letting you know that this is one of the greatest tax hikes in history ever. That you can't get over the fact that people that did more to campaign for Trump than y'all did is telling you that he's raising your taxes.
It's from other countries. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted immediately more than 1,000 points. The S&P 500 plummeted more than 3%. The NASDAQ plummeted almost 4.5%. There are real-world implications for this sort of stuff. Trade wars are, in fact, not good and not easy to win, particularly if you don't actually have a plan. It is predicated on a bad idea of how international trade works. A fundamental misunderstanding.
Bro, but you didn't know this before the election? You didn't know that Trump had bad economic policy before the election? How much bread has he had to lose to recognize? And this is why I say the Democrat-Republican shit confuses you people. The shit that really matters at the time when this mattered 6 months ago. Whether or not Donald Trump was going to raise taxes on people mattered 6 months ago. Before the election. That's when this shit mattered. Did we not care about these things when niggas was casting ballots? Did this not matter when we was trying to figure out who we gonna stand in line for? I don't get it. Where is the disconnect? Why can't shit like this be the center of the conversation during an election? Why does it always become nonsensical bullshit that we end up focusing on? Not even nonsensical. Let me not say nonsensical. Inconsequential would be the correct word. Why do we spend more time going back and forth, arguing, shit posting about inconsequential shit? We cared about prices when there was a reason to vote against Joe Biden. Why do we not care about prices now? And why should the people who cared about prices when we was talking about Joe Biden, who don't care about prices now, deserve any legitimate political discourse or deserve to be considered legitimate political discourse? This is proof that Ben Shapiro, no matter how much he try to position himself as this great debater, because I don't know where motherfuckers get that from. I think that his articulation or whatever got motherfuckers thinking that he just be cooking, because really, nah. And the ideological inconsistency makes it even worse. But this goes to show you that no matter how clearly and how articulate Ben Shapiro is explaining why he feels like Donald Trump was better than Joe Biden, he's sitting here looking like this. Because he was fucking wrong. He was such a fan of Donald Trump that he is now bitching and complaining about the largest tax hikes, one of the largest tax hikes in history, which the last one I think Donald Trump was also responsible for. But he's sitting here looking like this because he was so much of a fucking fan and had this fake persona of having intellectual conversations that he has to sit back and bitch and complain about this tax hike because his as it's been reported, his platform is losing bread. I thought it was go woke, go broke. The fuck y'all niggas complain? All you anti-woke niggas are really the ones that's mainly complaining about losing money. Portnoy complaining about losing money. But it's go broke, go woke. Or go woke, go broke. Come on. Even to the point where you got Rand Paul. Now, for those who don't know, Rand Paul is a libertarian. So he's not really a conservative, but he definitely fucked with Donald Trump. Right? But when you got niggas in the Senate, because the Senate just voted against tariffs to Canada, and they had quite a few Republicans. I think it was like 4 Republicans that sided with Democrats in order to push back against the tariffs against Canada. And when you have somebody else who was cutting for Donald Trump now having to get up and argue against his policy, do we not see that the way that we go about elections, the way that we go about political and electoral discourse is completely fucking flawed? Listen, again, another Trump circuit.
This is a tax, plain and simple.
Y'all can't hear that one. Okay, sorry.
Taxes should not be enacted by one person. So I will vote today to end the emergency. I will vote today to try to reclaim.
I'm going to start it again. Another Trump circuit.
This is a tax, plain and simple. Taxes should not be enacted by one person. So I will vote today to end the emergency. I will vote today to try to reclaim the power of taxation, the power of the tariff, to where the Constitution designated it should properly be, and that is in Congress.
The president's imposition of tariffs against Canada that will be a cost.
I don't want to listen to Tim Kaine loser ass, but Rand Paul, you knew what the fuck you was doing, Rand Paul. But you was in his court anyway. In any place he needed you, you was there. But here we are having to have this conversation after the fact. But Kamala Harris's laugh, though, right? Y'all remember Kamala Harris' laugh? The giggling. Niggas was so perturbed with the giggling. I guess that giggle wasn't as expensive as the shit you dealing with now. And the fucked up thing about it is, they would still rather have to deal with this shit, lose millions of dollars, than actually have I'll say a woman of color to avoid the controversy as president. Because I think the what gets us as we start to kind of get to the end, the sad part about it is we knew. It's not like there was no signs or no exhibits that kind of showed that we could look at to be like, nah, niggas was telling us. Economists was telling us. Nobel Prize winning economists were telling us.
A number of Nobel Prize winning economists coming out today talking about the difference between a Biden election mark versus re-election versus Trump winning. They were talking about the fact that Trump would be a lot more inflationary. Is that how you view Trump 2.0?
Yes, I do. Just think about the policies he's putting forward. I mean, the tariffs by themselves are going to be quite significant, 10% across the board. He's talked about 60% on Chinese imports into this country. His immigration policy, particularly deportations, he actually could follow through on that. That would be highly disruptive to leisure hospitality, retailing, the mining industry, agriculture. Food prices would go back up. Think about the tax cuts. They're deficit financed. There's no plan for paying for the tax cuts. And he's talking about more tax cuts, lowering the corporate tax rate even more, which will add to deficits. And that's a stimulus, fiscal stimulus, adding to.
Yeah, because y'all know that's what's coming next, right? The tax policy. Tax policy coming next. Because his current tax cuts expire for, I think, people who make less than $300,000. It expired for them in 2025. The assumption and the belief is that in 2026, he's going to attempt to extend them and cut even more taxes for corporations and businesses. While people are getting laid off, while shit is costing more and all this other shit, yeah. The biggest tax benefit that'll come out of the Trump administration will be for people who make bread. Not you, regular person. And we should never let this shit be normalized. Like we should be looking on the fact that, yeah, economists were telling us this was going to happen. Why are we fucking confused? We was told that we shouldn't trust the economists. They're all just liberals suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. But now look at this shit. The last part that I want to discuss before I get out of here, I know it's late. I had to get this off though. I had to get this off. The last part that I want to discuss is the impact specifically on black people. Because one of our major problems is niggas is just niggas straight be on that. Man, what they got to do with black people though? What they got to do about us? Why should we be? Why you trying to talk about some shit that's that white folk? And it's like, y'all niggas don't think an increase in prices, decrease in the market, layoffs and shit don't impact black people. What the fuck is going on with niggas? Why do we, again, I'm gonna prove it. But where's the assumption that black people, as a people who already get the short end of the stick, as a people whose experiences are already altered by their perceived race, why won't you think if some bad shit is happening to America, niggas is gonna get hit worse? You can't name something in America that happens negatively that don't happen to black people worse. So why do niggas have to be convinced that they should care about tariffs and Trump implementing these tariffs as if it ain't got shit to do with what's gonna happen with niggas' pockets? That's really, I mean, this is before we get into the data and the information, like, bro, this is really where niggas is fucked up. Because this is a phenomenon that we knew that went on with white poor conservatives. Like, let's be clear. Niggas think they're adopting the ideology of rich white men. No. You niggas are acting like poor white people. It's a book called What's the Problem with Kansas? And so like, what's wrong with Kansas or some shit like that. And the book broke down that poor whites vote against their own economic interests to the detriment of their economic interests. They vote for politicians that maintain their cultural values, but at the same time pass economic policies that hurt them. That's why on the conversation of capitalism, I always bring up the question, who do poor white people have more in common with? Do they have more in common with poor black people? Or do they have more in common with rich white people? And there are people who will argue me up and down that poor white people have more in common with rich white people than poor black people. And that is a fucking lie. Poor white people have to deal with shit like food stamps. Rich white people don't know shit about food stamps. They ashamed to be on some shit like that. Poor white people have to deal with stupid crime, petty crime, drug-related crime, all that other type shit. White people not dealing with that with no petty shit. They get caught up in the white collar shit. They can afford the attorneys that get shit cleaned up with them before they ain't even got to step a day in court. When the message that I always try to express to poor white people is like, you got to beef with me, a nigga. But who the fuck is cutting your pensions? Who is robbing you of your retirement? Who is laying you off from the factory? Who's cutting your wages, cutting your hours? Not giving niggas overtime? Fire you at the drop of it ain't niggas that look like me. The niggas that's fucking you over your retirement, is fucking you on your pay, look like you. That's the trap. And so when black people are so against Democrats that they're like, they make arguments or they align themselves with conservatives because it's still only like 20%, 20-something percent. We're not gonna act like niggas is just jumping out the window to support conservatism, but that 20-something percent is the amount of voters. I'm talking about just political discourse amongst black people has become increasingly poor white. Political discourse among black people has increasingly reflected the poor white attitude. I'm so against Democrats, I'm so against whatever that's happening in society that I will completely ignore the detrimental impact of conservative economic policies to advocate for people who don't give a fuck about me or my pockets or my ability to afford groceries for my kids just because they don't like gays. That's what we dealing with. That's who black people are starting to sound like. I mean, it ain't not just about gays and shit, but just like the anti-democrat talking points and all that other shit. Niggas is starting to embrace more detrimental economic policy focuses simply for the cultural shit. That is poor white electoral logic. I'm just keeping it a stack. You niggas is going about politics like poor white people. And it's not helping. It's not helping. Because as we can see, Trump's tariffs will hit lower income Americans the hardest. We're just talking about poverty right now before we even get to black people specifically. We just talking about poverty. All right. Tariff pain is not shared equally. The less money you make, the more President Trump proposed higher taxes on imports will hurt. Let's make that clear. Why it matters. Tariffs are another blow to lower income earners already struggling with higher prices. By the numbers, the lowest income households could see their disposable income fall by as much as 5.5% in a scenario of 20% across the board tariffs, where other countries retaliate with levies of their own, per an analysis from Yale Budget Lab. So when we dismiss this type of shit, when we dismiss these types of policies, we're literally saying fuck poor people. Just say it out loud. Just say it out loud. We're definitely just really saying fuck poor people. When we say, hey, man, I that shit don't impact me, you're saying fuck poor people. And that's not okay. That's not okay. Because once we start getting to the point where our conversation is centered around only what one of us experienced, why are we even? This is why I say niggas be like playing about, especially on the internet, on social media, when you hear conversations about community, when you hear the term the black community, who cares, and all this other type shit. Remember, like, niggas really tried to push that Donald Trump gave a fuck about black people. And it's like that the idea that caring about impoverished individuals is this radical left position is fucked up. You got to be radical to think that poor people shouldn't be the ones that's hurt the most by economic policy. That's radical. That's radical. At what point, where have we gotten in society where the idea that the worst off among us shouldn't get hurt the most by policy? Like, that's something that we should identify. That's something that we should be against. And that's out of pocket. And I get it. We've had these. Again, like I said, we've repeatedly talked about the impact that it's had on black people. This conversation it always shifts to what is the impact it had on black people. And to be clear, I want us to understand that we get the worst of it. We get the worst of it. So let me get into this data, right? So, like I said, the Smoot-Hawley Act, passed in 1930, was a U.S. law passed in June that raised tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods to historically high levels, sponsored by Senators Reed Smoot and Representative Willis C. Hawley. It was originally intended to protect American farmers, manufacturers from foreign competition during the early stages of the Great Depression. All right. Now, what the Smoot-Hawley Act did was it raised average tariff rates on taxable imports to about 60%, the highest in U.S. history at the time. At the time, Trump is competing for that. It prompted retaliatory tariffs from over 25 countries, leading to a massive drop in international trade, and it aimed to boost domestic production, protect jobs. But the consequences were far-reaching and mostly negative. Like, I want y'all to think about that. The same argument that they're making right now. Shout out to Pure Black. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the love. And more of y'all say what's up. Shit. More of y'all. Well, I know it's late too, because it's 11 o'clock. It's about to be 11 o'clock in California. So I know it's late where everybody else at. But the same arguments. We're passing these tariffs to boost domestic production. We're passing these tariffs to protect American jobs and to bring American jobs back. And that shit didn't happen. We had a recession. Shit got worse. Drastically. To where even the Senate website, as we talked about, the Senate website even says that it was one of the most disastrous acts to come out of Congress. And the same argument was being used. Why is this lost on everybody but fucking me, bro? I need Toya here. Because I need somebody else to rationalize the fact that we have an entire precedent of the shit that Trump's doing and niggas is like, wait and see. What do we do? So the impact on black people. Let's get to it specifically. The impact on black folks. Agriculture. All right, so prior to let me get my sources over here. All right, so prior to the tariff, U.S. farmers exported a significant portion of crops to Europe and other countries. After the tariff's passage, countries like Canada, France, and Germany retaliated by imposing their own tariffs on American goods, especially cotton, wheat, corn, and pork. That's going to be important. But again, look at the parallels. Look at the parallels. What happened the last time we tried to put tariffs on Canada? Well, black sharecroppers and tenant farmers in the South, already economically vulnerable due to systemic racism and exploitative labor systems, suffered from those plummeting crop prices because back then it wasn't no Mexicans that was doing the farming, it was niggas. It was us. So when you see a decrease in international trade of cotton, of wheat, of corn, of pork, we were getting hurt the most. For example, cotton prices fell by nearly 50% between 1929 and 1931. 50%. The impact of the drop of the cost of cotton, widespread displacement, hunger, and unemployment in black rural communities. Same thing that we see in terms of manufacturing in the North, because that was just agricultural in the South. But in the North, many black Americans who had migrated during the Great Migration worked in textiles, steel, and auto manufacturing. As international trade dried up and consumer spending declined, factories closed or drastically cut back operations, leading to layoffs that disproportionately affected who? Disproportionately affected black workers. The next time they tell y'all, the next time they ask the question, what this got to do with black people when we talk about layoffs, who is always disproportionately affected by layoffs? Black people. Black people. And if you don't think that this impact on the economy that these tariffs are having on that will cause things like layoffs, again, just pay attention to history. Just pay attention to history. A particular nuance associated with the drop-off in manufacturing is that many companies adopted what was called a last hired, first fired policy. And because black workers were newer, they were often seen as expendable and were more likely to be let go during economic downturns. And we think that's changed. We think that that's no longer the case. Literally, sociologist who is Charles Johnson pointed out that the economic blow of depression has not hit all equally and has been disproportionately felt in the black community. That means that the overall detrimental impact of the Smoot-Hawley Act was felt the most by black people. Black workers in plants and manufacturing in the North and agriculture in the South. Nobody was safe. There was no industry that was safe. And as we're, go or keep having conversations about shit like reparations, and we keep having conversations about shit like black employment and black people being employable and us staying in industries that can create the type of benefit that we need. Let's keep it real. If we're not actively pushing back against the structural barriers that are created, like these types of tariffs, if we're not actively focusing our electoral conversations and our electoral efforts towards pushing back bad policy, bad economic policy. This is why during the election, I was like, let's talk policy. Fuck, Kamala's black. Wait, they're not. That shit don't matter. Donald Trump not black. Donald Trump not black. What the fuck does it matter? That's what's so baffling about this whole shit. That's what's most so frustrated about the whole shit, because it's like the shit that matters, we ask the question, why does this matter to black people? But the shit that's wholly insignificant, wholly inconsequential, we completely get immersed into it. I found out more about Kamala Harris's grandfather, her grandmother, where they're from, their genetic code and genetic makeup and whatever governments they work for and everything else. We had niggas was so in depth about all her fucking background associated with the claims of her blackness that we ignored the tariff conversation. Completely dismissed it. And as much as, I think there is definitely like much more productive conversations to have, I don't feel like we can have it until niggas come to grip with the major fuck up. With the major fuck up. Because a lot of and again, this isn't saying that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden were like the perfect candidate at all. But would we be seeing a repeat of one of the most disastrous economic policies to ever come out of the Senate or come out of Congress? Would we be seeing a repeat of that shit? Yeah, it was all cool. It was funny when it was just DEI. Like, it was extremely, it was a joke when it was just like, nigga, white women benefit more from DEI. Why we give a fuck about that shit anyway? White women benefit more from DEI. It was funny. It was dismissive. Like, we didn't, like, does it really matter? But when we recognize that when there's an economic downturn, black people disproportionately suffer the brunt of that downturn, why do we not care? Why is there little to no focus on understanding how we're implicated? Why do we demand that people have to prove that black people are impacted when we know what the fuck we deal with in this country? Like, I think it's a very beneficial conversation to have to understand the logic, the backwards ass logic behind Trump's the whatever math that Trump did to come up with his tariffs. But I don't think we can even get there without first identifying that a lot of y'all just need to shut the fuck up. Like, yeah, niggas was like, I know it was Trump supporters that I was familiar with. The niggas was just like, yeah, y'all lost. Y'all lost. See, Damo, you just mad because y'all lost. Damo, you just mad because Kamala Harris not president, Donald Trump president, all of that other shit. Now, what are you niggas mad about? The bread that y'all losing because of the niggas who ass y'all was kissing. We are not going to sit here and act like niggas aren't going to be the one when shit roll downhill have to deal with that shit. Matter of fact, while niggas was up there, while niggas was arguing about Kamala Harris and all that other shit, yeah, the economy is on some wild shit right now is one thing, but just even something crazy that personally happened to me that it's like, where the fuck are our priorities? My nephew, my sister, my oldest sister, her son was in a school shooting today. My sister sent me a picture of my nephew ducking behind a desk, hiding behind a desk in a classroom while he could hear gunshots. A transgender student, was getting bullied, came to the school, told one girl that she was cool with, like, hey, get up out of here, it's about to get bad. The girl that they tried to warn saw the gun and screamed, and then shit popped off. Thank God nobody was injured. Thank God that my nephew survived the school shooting. But the fact that that shit has been normalized and we arguing about whether or not Kamala Harris is black. Nigga, I remember when Columbine happened. That shit was like, that's white people shit. That's some crazy suburban kid shit. I don't know, white rage or whatever. But I mean, bro, like that, like where the world, like with the shit that we need to be focused on, our government need to be focused on now, the shit that we arguing about is crazy. The shit that we spend our time going back and forth about is crazy. The shit that we care about politically, bro, like think about this shit. We have now entered into a world where school shootings have been fucking normalized. At the same time, where Donald Trump is trying to get rid of the Department of Education. At the same time that the fucking FBI and the Justice Department is more worried about rooting out wokeness than addressing the fact that children are getting weapons and shooting up their schools. This shit is wild. And it was a transgender student too. Let me see if because I was looking for it this morning. I don't know if it was I didn't see a news report about it. Let me see if something came up about it. You even look at the shit like list of school shootings in Texas. That's crazy. I'm gonna see if my sister can send me some shit, but I probably ain't gonna be able to show it over here. But this shit is crazy. You know what I mean? On top of the fact, like niggas like myself come from poverty, bro. Niggas come from poverty. Like I live a good life now. Like I live in the suburbs now. You know what I mean? Like a marginal. I mean, I already live in California, so like, the prices being wild is just like a part of the game. That's just how shit is out here. But I mean, when I'm thinking about economic policy, I'm not thinking about the fact that I'm gonna be cool. Like, how selfish have we become as a people that if it ain't about my direct benefit, then I shouldn't have a focus or care about shit like that. That's what's fucked up. The lack of empathy associated with this shit. The fact that niggas could dedicate the energy to contributing to the hatred that niggas saw with Donald Trump. And then when you see that it don't even benefit you, you would rather make excuses for it than dismiss the shit, than reject the shit. The last conversation I wanted to have, actually, is and you know what? I'll probably say this. I'll say this for another show because we getting a little over time. Appreciate everybody that pulled up. I know it's late, so to have everybody that pulled up, but because the last thing I want to talk about is the impact it's gonna have on the midterms. But it can't be. I mean, my conversation with that is, and we're gonna expand on it maybe when Toya get back. It can't be business as usual. It can't just be because Trump is this bad that people that we vote for who we vote for. We got to start actually advocating for voting for agents of change. That's just what it is. I don't fuck party. AOC, not Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez either. Agents of change. Damn, I would want to come like say that that's my shit. AOC, Agents of Change, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez got that shit, so I'm gonna have to figure something else out. But with that being said, man, the next conversation we'll probably have will be more about the impact that this shit is going to have on the 2026 elections, because we do have elections coming up literally next year. Literally. So, you know, as we approach that shit and whatever other updates, Toya will be back soon. Y'all wish her and her squad luck at the NDT. All the rest of that shit, everybody that pulled up, say a little something, appreciate the love. Ayasa, Pure Black, Daniel, J. Cal, Bay. Hey, and I know it's dead tonight, so I appreciate y'all pulling up. That's why I'm like, I'm glad I did this shit. Cause yeah, Moo pulled up too. Bay, all y'all niggas. Cause y'all know usually it be cracking on the Friday night, but it was a little dry, so I'm gonna have this conversation the way I had this conversation. So, appreciate the love. I will see y'all when I see y'all. Hopefully, Toya get back soon and we can get back on real soon. But with that being said, this the Chop Up. I'll holler at y'all next time. I'm out.